Well, welcome, Senator Peake. Thank you for joining us for this round of candidate interviews with the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance. As you know, I am Barry Butler, Director of Government Relations for the Regional Business Alliance. We are joined by Scott Kowalski, and he'll introduce himself, which I'm certain that you know through your legal dealings. But we are doing these candidate interviews via Zoom for the mere fact that we have 3 state Senate districts and 4 House of Delegates districts that touch on the Lynchburg region. And so this is just for an abundance of expediency and convenience for everybody involved. You are running in Senate District 8, which is the new one. Scott, introduce yourself, and then going on to the questions.
Great, Senator Peake, thanks for getting on. I'm Scott Kowalski. I'm the chair of the Government Relations Committee for the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance, and I'm participating in these interviews, and we hope to hear more about your ideas for the Commonwealth in the upcoming election and your term if you should win. So thank you, Senator Peake.
All right, Scott, Barry, great to be with you guys again. Looking forward to talking to you about what my plans are should we win in November, and what we hope the General Assembly will do. And of course, that's all up in the air. You don't know who's going to be in charge of the General Assembly. So a lot of my plans could be shot down before they even get off the ground. We'll have to see what happens in November.
Isn't always the case. So just for documenting purposes, we sent out the exact same questions to every candidate that we're interviewing, and everyone that is a candidate in the districts that touch on us. You did in fact receive the questions and had a chance to look them over?
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right. So the first ones are, really tell us a little bit about yourself, your professional experience, and your connection to the district.
Yes, guys, my name's Mark Peake. I grew up in Roanoke, went to Patrick Henry High School, and then off to Virginia Tech, America's team, where everybody supports the Hokies around here, and then to Washington Lee for law school, and came to Lynchburg in 1990 as a lawyer with Caskey and Frost. Met my wife Lila. She had graduated from Randolph-Macon Women's College and was attending Lynchburg, now University of Lynchburg, nursing school, and she's been a nurse. We've been married for 28 years, and we have 5 kids who are now grown. All went to school here in the area, and most of them colleges in Virginia, where all of them finally graduated from colleges in Virginia. So I worked as a lawyer here, got involved in Republican politics 20 plus years ago at the local level, city committee chairman, and served on the transportation board under Bob McDonnell, and then elected to the state Senate in 2017, representing parts of Lynchburg and all the way to Goochland, and now running in Senate District 8, which will reunite all of Lynchburg and all of Bedford and all of Campbell. So a nice compact district that I think has a fairly uniform core of interest, and compact and contiguous. So it's nice.
All right, excellent. Before the next question, just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're only going to do about 30 minutes, and we probably won't get to every single one. So, we will, probably skip around with some of the questions. The next one is thinking about your district. If you're reelected, what are going to be your legislative priorities?
Well, I've always I go on the philosophy and mantra of more freedom, less government. So I'm a watchdog to make sure we don't overstep our bounds when we get to Richmond. There's a lot of tendency to put government in control of everything. And I feel like one of my main jobs is to make sure we don't overreach in Richmond and step into areas we shouldn't be involved in. Seems like everybody wants to expand government, and I really don't support expanding government. I want to expand individual freedom and liberties. And that's my main goal, is protect the citizens from the government in Richmond when I go. And then, of course, I like to look out for my localities as well. We have various things that involve core functions of government, and I like to help them work on those issues. Public safety is one of the big ones. I think that's one of the most important functions of our government. And of course, creating the proper environment where our businesses can prosper, where people can get jobs, where people can work, and public education I also see as a core function of our government.
Okay, thank you. And the
Great.
next few questions are going to come from Scott.
Great, thank you, Senator Peake. And speaking of core issues for the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance, two of those are education and workforce development and training. In the education field, looking at K through 12 education and addressing the attraction. Sorry about that.
Sorry, it's a little dark. I can see. All right, go ahead. I'm listening. Start up.
K through 12 education, and we're talking about the attraction and retention of public school teachers. What, if anything, can be done through the General Assembly to help attract and retain K through 12 teachers who are an important component of the public education system?
Public education is obviously a core function, and that's what we do. That's not helping. All right, we have to go up. Yeah. All right.
Nice try, Ashley.
Education is broken down at the nuclear family level. You talk to teachers in this area, throughout the Commonwealth, throughout the country. I've had a number of teachers come up to me, some retired. They say they don't feel safe in school. They don't feel safe around the students they're supposed to teach. They can't discipline the students. If they discipline the students, they end up getting in trouble with the administration. The students aren't coming to school respecting teachers, behaving with a desire to learn. That starts at home. If you want to have, I said it every time anybody asks me about education, y'all heard it a million times. If you want to have good schools, you got to start with good parents. You find schools where the parents are concerned about their kid getting a good education, and that will be a good school. It doesn't matter how old the building is. It does not matter. If the parents are there, making their children do their homework, making the children behave, supporting the teachers, supporting the administration, they will have a good school and they will get a good education. If the kids don't care, you can't make them learn. If a kid's going to go in there and talk through class, play on his phone, read the computer or whatever, he's not going to learn. And you can't, or she, and you can't make them learn if they don't want to learn. And if the parents aren't there to make sure their kids are learning something, it's a problem. And that is what I see as the major problem we have in education today, is that there's no discipline in the schools. There's no fear in the schools. Instead, you have certain people talking about the school to prison pipeline and how they don't want to discipline children in schools. I think that's absurd. And I think that's a big problem when teachers are afraid to discipline children who misbehave. And then when you see it, it's gotten worse. I suspect back in y'all's day, y'all are a little younger than me, but if the teacher or principal called my parents and said I did something wrong, I got in trouble at home. Now, if the teacher calls the parents and said the kid did something wrong, the teacher gets in trouble. It's absurd. We've got to change that dynamic.
Thank you, Senator Peake. Now, understanding that the family support, parental involvement is an issue. Is there any involvement or anything that General Assembly can do to improve teacher attraction and retention, to improve literacy rates in your district, in the Senate district, or investing taxpayer dollars in a new and creative way to help that facilitate that process?
Well, one way is to create competition in the school system through education savings accounts to give parents an option. So if they want their child to learn and they're in a school that does not optimize learning, they can pull them out and put them in a school where discipline is prized, where parents are involved, and where teachers have the ultimate authority to make sure the kids learn. We've got to pay our teachers a good salary. Everything is a competition. If you want good teachers, you have to pay them. Certainly we have to pay our teachers, and we provide good benefits for our teachers as well. They have good retirement benefits. They have good health care. in addition to their salary. So you look at the salary, but a lot of people don't talk about the other benefits, the retirement part of it, the healthcare part of it as well. So we need to do all of those things to attract teachers and to keep them. But you talk to teachers who are leaving, they're leaving after a couple of years. They're not leaving because of money. They're leaving because they don't feel respected or safe or supported.
Okay, sticking with the education and workforce area, Senator Peake, thinking about post-high school educational and training opportunities, what are some ways to address the affordability of college or workforce readiness programs and ensure that all young adults, regardless of income, physical ability, and race, have access to education and job training opportunities?
Well, first, our community colleges around here do a great job. CVCC does a great job. I was just out there meeting with them, and when they have a ribbon cutting on the nuclear building that I think a lot of us attended a couple of months ago, and they're working on a new project I just talked about for more CTE training. So community college is very affordable, very reasonable. You can get a degree very quickly in one of the trades that are desperate for employees. So those are great opportunities. They also work with our high schools, kids can get a head start in some of the trades. In addition, for kids who do want a college degree, they can get the 2 years there where it's reasonable. They can live at home. The costs are good, and then take those credits and fully transfer to a 4-year university. So we have to keep that program going. It's very important. But I'll tell you, we have to start looking at a different way for our 4-year universities to act. UVA has a how many $billion endowment, and they've used none of that endowment to reduce the cost of their tuition. It's absurd. So they keep talking about the state's decreasing its level, the state's decreasing its level. They keep increasing their endowment by billions. Virginia Tech, same thing. I mean, they've got a large endowment, not as big as UVA's, but none of them are using their endowments to decrease tuition or to decrease living on campuses. Instead, they want to pay professors who then do studies on obscure topics, who then publish papers on obscure topics in even more obscure journals that not a single person is going to read outside of 3 or 4 people in whatever that given field is. They need to change their focus on professors who write stupid papers that are not read, that add nothing to the quality of education for our actual children who are young adults who are in college. And they need to get away from social agendas in college. That is turning people off. They need to focus on education, teaching people how to read, how to write, how to think, how to communicate. And Newt Gingrich talked about it when he ran for president. I don't know, probably 16 years ago at this point. I cannot remember which election it was. There's a university in Arkansas, and I forgot the name of it, but the kids went there. They all worked to help pay their tuition. They left with no debt because they worked and they paid it off. That is a model that needs to be expanded. And Scott, I know you've got some kids who've headed off to college, and the difference in just when I went to Virginia Tech 81 through 85, you go through these parking lots and the cars that kids are driving, it's nicer than the ones I'm driving. And I've been working for 30 plus years at this point. They have gyms that are state of the art. They have cafeterias that are state of the art. They brag about the quality of their food. They brag about the quality of their social activities. They're not bragging about the actual getting the kid into the classroom and making them bust their butt to learn something. It's gone on to social and recreational activities, the amount of money that is spent on these things versus a classroom and a professor. Go in there, read your assignment, talk about it with the professor. The focus needs to get back on education. But we can't attract these kids without they're country clubs. If we want the kids to come, we need, and then of course, if you want a country club, it costs a lot. So then they're borrowing money from the government. Then they're now complaining about how much it costs to go to a country club for 4 years, and they want the welders and plumbers and electricians to pay for it. It's a problem.
All right, well.
Thanks, Senator. Now I'll turn it over to Barry for the next set of questions.
I'm not shy.
No, you're not. That is for sure. And I think that there are a number of people that share that.
Someone would borrow money to go to college and expect someone else to pay that loan off. It's just absurd.
All right, well, Senator, let's go back a little bit to, still in the education workforce space. Let's go back to high school. Now, some of the things that we've been hearing from people that are, that we're working with and dealing with in workforce development at a regional level, there tends to be a bias from some of our school counselors that continue to push for, 4-year education, which is perfectly fine. And as you mentioned, there are a number of other opportunities, especially 2-year degrees, certificate programs and things like that will get you skilled, but then also get you to work immediately, making great wages. Think along those lines. How can we provide additional support to school counselors and teachers to present all possible pathways, college track and skilled trades?
I think we're doing that. It comes from the top down, and I don't know when it switched. 30 years ago, when I was in high school, we had CTE programs, automotive, welding, shop, and a whole school set aside at Patrick Henry campus where they did that. And then all of a sudden we did away with these over the next 30 plus years. And I think we realized we have a ton of employers in our area who can't find skilled people for electrician, welding, HVAC, car repair, any of these things, masonry, tons of trades that need truck drivers that they can't find people to do it. And I think we're finally learning. I know the current administration, Youngkin administration, has been talking to local school districts, and I know our school districts are coming up with a regional plan for CTE training, and we need to put money into that. And of course, we need to educate our current counselors that if you can make a lot of money as a welder, an electrician, plumber, opening your own business without ever borrowing a nickel to go to college. And it's a great living. And Scott, as a lawyer, half the people that we represent, very wealthy people, are ones who run their own businesses, many of whom did not go to a 4-year college, but are really good at what they do in various trades. So we need to talk about those success stories and promote those success stories. Not only can they work for a lot of our major employers around here, but they can also become independent businesses, own their own businesses, and be completely self-reliant.
Okay, thanks a lot. One more question on education, and then I'm going to touch on military and veteran affairs. We're starting to grow a little short on time. As you know, we've got, probably the highest concentration. Actually, I think we do have the highest concentration of private colleges and universities in the state, in the Commonwealth of Virginia. How important is Virginia Tuition Assistance Grant, the Virginia TAG, to your district? And how will you support the TAG program going forward?
Yeah, I've always supported the TAG program. And back when I went to law school in the 80s, we actually got it to go to law school. I went to Washington and Lee, and I got a TAG assistant, which helped tremendously back then at a private school. And it helps the state because they don't have to have the facilities to educate all of these state students. So it helps take the responsibility and burden off of them. So what we give is minuscule compared to what it costs to educate one of these students at a 4-year university. So it's a good benefit for the state, and it helps the student make it a little bit more affordable to go to one of these other colleges, a private college, which might have more options for the type of curriculum they want to study. So I'll continue to support them. And I've had a lot of private schools: Hampton, Sydney, University of Lynchburg, Sweetbriar, Randolph-Macon, Liberty, all in the what I've had. So I've had a lot of students take advantage of the tag grants.
Excellent. One more question, I'll turn back over to Scott. Military and Veteran Affairs. We're talking about, education and training workforce, but probably one of our, most valuable and untapped resources are our veterans. What are some ways that the Commonwealth of Virginia can encourage veterans and military families to stay in Virginia and connect them to education, training, or go straight to civilian careers such as teaching?
First, we've done a lot in the last couple of years under Governor Youngkin to ease the tax burden on our military folks. And that's what we've done for retired people, exempt a certain amount of their income from taxes. I think we just raised it up to 40,000. I think we can continue to raise that. I know we helped them some on some property taxes. We opened that up to the localities to have that option. So I think you look at it from a tax incentive standpoint. If they've done their time in the military and retired, served our country, we can give them a little bit of benefit on state taxes. We've made it easier as far as licensing requirements for our retired military to get into education. We've made it easier for military and their spouses to bring in their licensure, whether they're nurses, teachers, whatever their profession may be, to come into Virginia and be eligible and reciprocate their licensure requirements. So those are things that we've worked on, and I'll continue to support to help our military and their spouses.
Okay. All right, Scott. Hey, Scott, you're muted.
You're on mute, Scott.
I like talking to myself. All right, moving over to the business climate section of questions, Senator Peake. What are some ways to streamline the current infrastructure permitting process to support greater efficiency while still maintaining the existing uniform standards?
I'm sorry, could you start that again?
Sure. What are some ways that we can streamline the current infrastructure permitting process to support greater efficiency and greater production of infrastructure while maintaining the existing strong uniform standards?
Yeah, that has been a horrible problem. Unfortunately, most of that comes down from the feds as far as the water requirements, the road requirements. And when I see these bike lanes, or we have to have walking lanes on our major highways, it's just absurd, but that's what the federal government has put on our people when we use federal dollars for transportation or building roads. And I say, somebody's not coming down and getting off Amtrak train with a big suitcase and getting on a bike and riding 15 miles to a hotel. Those are just some of the things. Unfortunately, I think most of it is coming down from the feds, but I get numerous complaints from our constituents. There'll be a problem with a road or sidewalk or whatever the case may be. And they say, our hands are tied. That's what the requirements are. That's what the regulations are. I would like to do away with as many of them as we can. If they're brought to my attention, I will raise them with our secretaries and see if they're just bureaucratic regulations, a way to get rid of them. If they're from the feds, it's nearly impossible.
Understood. Thank you. One more question. I'll turn it back over to Barry. What are some additional ways the Commonwealth can support economic development initiatives that improve the availability of pad-ready sites, create jobs, and strengthen trade?
Well, Governor Youngkin's obviously been spending money on pad-ready sites. So there've been a number of distributions over the past year or two, and plenty in our area. But you've got to create the environment that attracts businesses, and that's first, good workforce, good standard of living, quality schools, and then of course low taxes and good infrastructure. And that's one of the problems we have here is that we don't have an interstate, and so that has been a problem. But you have to have good roads. Some of it can be trained, but low taxes, I think less regulation, make it easier for them to get here, make it easier for them to start up a business with as little government hindrance as possible.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Barry, I'll turn it over to you.
Try and get through maybe two more, but then at the end, give you an opportunity to wrap up and any closing thoughts. So again, talk about taxes. How can the General Assembly target tax reform to better position the state for economic growth and investment?
We have not revised our tax code in I think 30, 40, 50 years. We need to look at that. We're trying to raise it, but it would have been 15,000. So we exempted 15,000, and that was back 50 years ago when a lot of people made that, and we just have not adjusted at all. We need to adjust our tax rate. We need to look at what our competitors are doing. Tennessee has reduced its corporate tax. North Carolina has done the same. They've reduced the individual income tax. Now you might adjust it with an increase in the sales tax. You have to look at those things and look at who we're competing with. And I would like to see a complete study of our tax structure in comparison with our major competitors, North Carolina and Tennessee. Because I don't think we're losing many to Maryland, because they've got a horrible tax structure. So I think we need to lose. And of course, Florida and Texas have no income tax and no corporate tax, but they have higher sales tax. So I think we need a study. I would love to see a study to make sure we're competitive with the neighbors that are actually taking businesses from us.
Right. Squeeze in one more. What are some barriers that impede small business growth and entrepreneurship? How can these barriers be removed or minimized?
Licensure requirements. We need certain licenses for public safety, but I think we have a tendency to get involved in every profession, in every industry. And then you have the problem of people not getting back in touch. So you have a government agency that has to come approve something for somebody can expand or open, and they're not available. You have to talk to people who are building homes. Well, this guy can't get here for 3 months to approve what I need to do. And we had just too much bureaucracy, too much oversight, and not enough people to do it. But I don't want to bring in more people to do it. I want to cut what they have to do. And their financial burdens, of course, and we have small business loans. So we need to have good loans. Of course, interest rates going up like they are now are going to be a hindrance to people trying to start a new business. But we need to have our good small business loan programs. We have incubators, people to advise folks who are trying to start a new business. So we have to provide the intellectual support for people trying to do this. But generally, we need to get out of the way and let them get started.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Senator Peake. Those are all the questions that we have time for. And just a few minutes back to you to wrap up and any closing thoughts.
Well, as you've seen, I don't have any problem talking about anything that you want to ask me about, and giving opinions that I know will be unpopular with many of the people listening to them. But that's how it goes sometimes. I've enjoyed the past 7 sessions. I've gotten to represent District 22 in the General Assembly. I hope I get to go back and represent District 8 and continue to fight for our region and the Commonwealth. And I love getting input from our local folks. That I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to change the world as a state senator from Lynchburg, but I'm trying to fight for the people in the Central Virginia region, the areas that I represent, the problems that they have. A lot of them it's constituent services. Their roads blocked. They can't get a road. They can't get somewhere. They need infrastructure help. They can't get in touch with the workers' unemployment. They couldn't get their unemployment during the pandemic. Those are things that we help our people with. Law enforcement, they need raises. They need to be supported. They need a proper attitude from the top to appreciate what they're doing. Same with teachers. We have to appreciate what they're doing, and that shows in what we pay them and also in how we treat them. So those are some of the areas that I will focus on, continue to focus on. And then the localities bring issues, and we do our best to try and fight for those areas. Central Virginia Training Center, I brought bills to keep it open my first 6 years, worked with Senator Newman to look at ways to revitalize that property. The bridge, College Lake. So there are ways to bring in money through the budget, through infrastructure programs to help. And I'll continue to do that. And I know we're going to miss Senator Newman, who was able to do a lot of good in those areas along with Kathy. So we're going to miss those two. But it's time for the rest of us to step up, and I look forward to doing that.
Right. Well, Senator Peake, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck out on the campaign trail, and we will see you hopefully down the road.
Just give me a holler. I'm happy to tell you what I think on any topic, anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. All right.